You're listening to the Laura the Library Lady podcast, presented by the Massillon Public Library.
Hi, it's Laura the Library Lady coming to you from the Massillon Public Library basement studio in the Duncan House here at our library. I have a local author with me today. It's A.M. McPherson. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
As a local author in the area, can you talk about your background and where you're from?
Well, I'm 35 years old, which I've lived majority of my life around the Akron area. I graduated from Barberton High School, and then I have my associate's degree from Kent State University. I also worked in the financial area around here for about 10 years before kind of had a big sign from the universe that it was time for me to leave that world and pursue other things, which mainly was my writing and focusing on my family.
That's awesome. A sign from the universe.
Yes, a big sign.
A big sign.
I released my first book, The Guardian's Daughter, and the next day I went to work, and I won't get into all the details, but had a little sign where I was like, I think it's okay if I take some time for myself and focus on what I want to do. So,
well, that's really interesting. You had already released your book. It just came out, and then that happened to you.
And like I said, what's kind of crazy is the fact, like, it really had nothing to do with me releasing the book, because some people were like, oh, were you doing that great? And I'm like, I wish I could be like, sure, I made all this money, I could quit my job. But it was actually just purely coincidental when these things happen. And, sometimes you take some signs, and it's worked out for the good for me so far, so.
The cosmos answered you.
Yes.
All right. Well, how did you get started in writing?
It actually, so I dabbled with writing for a little bit here and there. I took some writing courses in college, but I really didn't get into it after the birth of my son. I started dealing with a lot of postpartum depression and
that's hard.
Some hard anxiety attacks, and I had this dream about like kind of the superhero world, and I got a little obsessed with it, and then I ended up actually having like another dream about it. So I was like, maybe I should.
You mean literally a dream?
Yeah, like
in your sleep.
Yes, like a literally a dream. And I mean,
awesome.
You hear about that happening all the time, right? But but writing became a tool for me to help kind of process my depression and anxieties and kind of weave it into my writing. And it became a good tool, and also kind of like a distraction to help me get through some dark times. But it was also the best times of my life, too, because I had a fabulous new little dude, and he was great. But, sometimes some support's not there, and you find tools to help you, and writing was that tool that helped me.
I love that. That's awesome. So were you always a writer when you were younger, or literally it just kind of started for you more recently?
Like, I always had, I wanted to dabble with writing here and there, but I kind of always had the feeling I wasn't good enough to do it, so I didn't do it too far. Because, it's not like I'm the queen of grammar or anything, but that's why you hire editors. But so it was kind of like lacking the self-confidence to follow through on it when I was younger and whatnot. And I was always very artsy, too, so I did a lot of artsy kind of things. But it wasn't until after having my son, which he's 6 now, so it's been, a few years working on this, that I really was like, I don't know, it was something about hitting rock bottom where I was like, I don't care anymore, and just went at it. And my first copies, I know, were absolutely horrible and rough and crazy, but it was it was great to just get it out and write and honestly just have fun with it and let it be a tool to purely help me for myself. And then I started kind of building off of that and realizing, this actually is something I really enjoy doing and really love doing. I want to build off of that, so
and share it with others.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you've been very creative all your life, so that's really great to be able to share your creativity.
Yeah. And kind of sharing was kind of those things, going through a rough time like that too. I kind of wanted to tell my story to also maybe help inspire other people who are going through a hard time. Just look for something to help them that brings them some joy to get through that, and they're to continue working on your dreams, and you can get through it. It just sometimes it takes some time.
Yeah. And you tell yourself later on you're going to look back and laugh or feel sentimental about those hard times that you went through. But we were just discussing well, sometimes you have to lock the bathroom door.
Yeah. Yes. Sometimes you do. It's like, I just need 5 minutes, please.
Literally, you love your family, but it's like, okay, I need a little private time here.
Yep.
And I know that feeling. I have 3 kids.
Yeah.
They're all grown up, thank goodness. Everybody lived, and it was okay. But
that's the biggest thing. It's like, we're all still here. That's good.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's successful. That's a successful day.
Right, because you kind of feel like you're alone and, nobody else has gone through this. But I think it's really beneficial because a lot of people go through this. Mm-hmm. And it is difficult, whatever may have happened to somebody throughout their life, whether it is like childbirth and changing hormones and postpartum depression, I think is really a lot more common than people want to think about, as well as any other type of problem that somebody might have. Yeah, and I know this is being talked about a lot more too, but there's so much health care given to the baby after the baby is born, which of course the baby needs that care and that attention. Right. But usually, like, I had one follow-up visit and they were like, "Oh, are you doing okay?" And I'm like, I guess. Okay. And they're like, "Okay, great." And that was pretty much it. And then, and my husband and I, I have a very small family. It's mainly just my mom, and his family lives far away. So we really didn't have much of a support network either. Mm-hmm. And, there was a lot of sleep deprivation going on and stuff. And, sometimes when you don't have that extra support, and then, I have a bad habit too, sometimes just feeling like it wasn't okay to ask for more help from like a health provider almost too during that time, even though my husband kept encouraging me to. That's great that he did that. Yeah. He always, my husband is so supportive and so loving, and he's for years has always been like, honey, it's okay. But it was always like, sometimes old habits from past things stick with you. You're like, no, like, I'm good enough. I can do this. But, finally I was, it took a moment actually with my husband where I was just like, it is okay to go get help, but it took a long time, and I think that's something I kind of want to promote too. Like, it is okay to go be like, what, I do need a little help to get through this time, and that's completely normal and okay because, parenthood, because even for fathers, like, it's a whole change of life. Oh, definitely. And then you're kind of just thrown into the wild, and you're like, good luck. And, when you don't have a lot of family and that network around you, and everything does fall on your shoulders. And during the time I was finishing my degree, working part-time, my husband's working full-time, there was just a lot going on. So you're trying to balance everything, and it's kind of hard. And, thankfully my husband then was able to stay home with my son for a couple of years while I finished my degree, then went back to work full-time. But then it's like, working full-time, still trying to take care of those, it's definitely a lot. And then during the whole time too, I'm trying to write this book, and then I realized I wanted to publish it. So like, I was waking up at like 5 o'clock in the morning, writing for a couple hours, going to work, writing a little bit there before I started work, working all day, going home, trying to spend some time with the family, then working, like writing. So it was like just trying to do too much also during that time, But that sounds like the life of a professional writer, and you have gotten published, so that's turned out great in the end. I guess go ahead and tell us some more about your book, The Guardian's Daughter. Yes. So The Guardian's Daughter, it's a urban fantasy romance with like a superhero twist on it. It's set in a world where if abilities were the norm, would everyone want to be a hero? The story follows my main characters, Ember Volterra and Aiden Stiles, who both have traumas in their past related to the same event that happened, which was her parents being murdered. Years later, they meet at university, because the event happened when they were both younger, like early teens. They meet at university. Of course, there's a spark between them, and they can't kind of deny it, but Aiden's hiding a secret from her regarding like her parents' murders. So he kind of deals with the guilt and struggles with that while they're growing close, but Ember's also trying to figure out her place in the world, but she's known as the Guardian's Daughter because how famous her parents were and for their murder. So there's a lot of pressure on her to kind of follow her parents' footsteps. So it's a story of, trying to heal from these traumas and grief in their past, but while also coming together and trying to form a strong bond, and also like a story of forgiveness and moving forward. That sounds awesome. It's part of the Stalworth Chronicles. Yep. This is book 1. Yep. What's next? Book 2 is The Guardian's Secret, and fingers crossed, I'm hoping to have it out by the end of the year. Right now, I'm in kind of applying feedback stages to get ready for editing, so it kind of just depends on how long the editing stages go. But I'm hoping by the end of the year it'll be out. If anything, definitely early next year. That sounds great.
So, yep, it's coming.
And this is part of a genre that's called new adult.
Yeah, or new adult, upper YA, I say like 16 plus. So it's just because
young adult is kind of traditionally like 13 to 18 age range.
It kind of gets tricky words in that sense because it's college age. So it deals with a little more like adult theme than like say high school would, but it's not like adult where adults can be like adult literature can be really graphic in some areas and, you know, really, really strong language and stuff like that. So it's kind of like a softer version of adult, but because it's college age, like I said, it's kind of more like learning your place in the world, dealing with stuff that normally, you know, when you're first trying to discover who you are and becoming an adult, you would go through, where like a lot of YA stuff sometimes can be a little more like a high school kind of base.
Yeah, I like that term, new adult, because it's for people who are newly adult.
Yeah, I know, because it's a genre or a category that a lot of people haven't heard of, because it's not
right.
Because most time it's like YA or adults, but there's like this niche kind of where it's new adults. So sometimes some people can be like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, well, I say 16 plus because I do feel like it's appropriate for 16 plus, but it's like, you know, maybe like though 13, 14, it might be a little too much.
Too strong for them. Yeah. Right. Okay. Did you want to read us an excerpt?
Sure. So I was thinking about this. I think it was good to read a little passage where they first kind of meet. The figures on the screen were about to lower the slick black caskets into the ground. Flower arrangements of white roses, along with people, flooded the surrounding area. Someone was talking, probably the priests, but it was too hard for me to focus on what they were saying. The angle of the shot showed a few people sitting in chairs next to the caskets. A man with bluish-black hair, a young woman with longer straight black hair, and a girl who looked to be my age around the time. The camera abruptly zoomed in on the girl while the daughter of Emerald Blaze and Digger scrawled across the screen. Emerald Blaze's desperate voice echoed in my mind. Please, please think of my daughter. The girl's head snapped up, and her bright green eyes stared at me through the TV screen. It seemed like she knew her parents were dead because I wasn't able to help them, that I was the reason why she was now an orphan. Tears poured from my eyes as I sobbed into the couch. How could I ever live with myself for failing this girl's parents, for failing her? My sobs intensified, and my mom was suddenly there. She effortlessly pulled me into her, and her warmth somewhat comforted me. She mumbled something while lifting her remote toward the TV, turning it off. Those emerald eyes faded away, but they would haunt my dreams for months to come. Now, those same eyes are staring at me, just staring at me, and the girl they belong to is not saying anything. My teeth rattle. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bother you. My words snap the girl from her trance. She blinks a few times as she wipes her cheeks. You're not, she says and sniffs loudly. I shouldn't have been that close to you. To be honest, I didn't even see you. I was a bit distracted. I give a little shrug and struggle to take a breath. Yeah, sure, it's okay. We stand in awkward silence for what feels like hours. Is she who I think she is? Ember Volterra? Would she tell me if she is? From time to time, I did keep tabs on her. The press would blast her for not taking up her parents' mantle, which seemed a little unfair. She was just a kid, but I rarely ever saw photos of her with them. When I did, she was always covered up. She clearly doesn't want to be known to the public. Unfortunately, my curiosity and desperation to know if she is that little girl gets the best of me. Are you their daughter? She narrows her eyes, and I swear I see what looks like fire behind them for a split second. I should have kept my mouth shut.
Oh, I enjoyed that very much. So
that was
kind
the
of
first
a
cover.
tagline for this story is "Secrets bind them together. Secrets may also tear them apart." I think we'll have to read it to get the rest of the story by A.M. McPherson.
Yes.
All right. Well, for those people out there who are trying to do some creative writing, can you talk about what writer's block might mean to you?
I know like writer's block to a lot of people is kind of like where you just feel stuck and you don't know what to do, and it kind of makes you freeze and lock up and you don't really want to write, because then I feel like sometimes people are scared because it's like, well, it's just going to be bad or it's going to be silly. And my advice is, like, let it be bad. Let it be silly. I mean, like I said, my first draft of this book, oh my gosh, no one will ever see it besides my son maybe one day. But, you know, like...
You didn't burn it?
No, I still kept it.
That's good.
Yeah, there's a lot. I actually have these separate documents where I'll write chapters, and I'd be like, you know, I didn't like this, but I'm going to save it because maybe there's a nugget of something here I can pull from later and use later. But, you know, it's completely okay to sit down and don't be grammarly correct and let the plot and stuff be a mess and try to get it out to figure out the story, in my opinion. You know, that might not work for everybody, of course, but it's okay to just try to get going with it. Or, you know, it doesn't have to be linear. You can, if you have an idea made for just one little scene that could be possibly the end of the book, play with it, flesh it out. It might help you to get to know your characters better, so then you can figure out the rest of the story. I think sometimes people just get so scared to just try to write because of it being bad. But like I said, just let it be bad.
Let it be bad.
It's okay. That's what critique partners, beta readers, and editors are for, is to help you. You know, and a lot of times, like I found when I get stuck and if I just sit down and start writing, even if it's like the faintest idea of a hint, sometimes it just helps it get the momentum flowing. And then you can always go back in, fix things. Sometimes for me too, like I'll be writing and I don't quite know someone's description yet or a setting yet, and I'll put like in brackets like insert setting here and just keep going.
Good idea.
Because sometimes I really flow with the dialogue, but then it's like I need a moment to really sit and flesh out the world or that character or something. So, but it's like my brain wants to keep going with certain other aspects, so I'll just let it keep going and come back and revisit those one parts and try to fix them out, you know.
So do you work from an outline or seat of the pants, or?
I like to say, because there's pantser where you do it the seat of your pants, and plotter, I think it's plotter.
Yeah, you're right.
Where you do the whole outline. I'm kind of like a plantser. So I always have a rough outline. I try to get a general idea of what I want the book to go and know which points of the book I need to hit, if that makes any sense. Like by certain chapters, I want to make sure I kind of hit this big note in the book, or and have
make
a
sure
taper
you kind
off.
of cover everything for the plot.
And then what I'll do is I'll start writing based off that outline. But while I'm writing though, if I find out, you know, this wasn't working as well as I thought it would when I was doing my outline, I'll change it to try to tweak it and make it flow better. Because sometimes you don't know if some ideas will work until you flip. Or at least I found in my experience, sometimes I think one idea will be great and everything, and I write it out, I'm like, oh, that wasn't great. So then I tweak it, because it's strange with writing, because sometimes it's like, you know, I create my characters and, you know, technically I have full control of them, but sometimes when you're writing, you're like, oh, this isn't fitting them as well as I thought it would.
This character doesn't want to do what I thought he would want to do.
Yeah, because I mean, I think about some of my original ideas I have for a few of my characters and what they've become. I'm just like, it's crazy. I wanted you here, but we're over here. Like, how did that... I know I have full control of you, but it wasn't how they turned out to be. So sometimes
didn't fit with their character as you ended up.
It's very magical and wonderful, and I like to embrace that and not be so strict with it. Like, you know, I always make sure, like I said, I hit certain points throughout the plot that I want to hit, but I can be flexible while I'm writing. I don't stick exactly to that outline if it doesn't feel right.
Right, you don't want to be
And then I'll
regimented.
usually adjust the outline as I go to them, try then to get the rest of the book shifting in that direction I need it to be.
Yeah, but I'm hearing you say you do adjust your outline so that you make sure that everything makes sense.
Yes.
And your plot continues forward.
Yeah.
You don't have any holes or kind of missteps. So, and that's great, because that makes a lot more sense to the reader. You know, nothing would be more distracting than to have something kind of that doesn't fit.
Yeah, and that's actually with my one really good critique partner. I've talked to her before. I'm just like, you know, if I feel like something's off and not working, that's going to translate to the reader. Like, there's no way they're not going to think this seems strange and it's not working if I'm having that question. So it's kind of funny, actually, with book 2. I'll share a little secret with you and everyone who's listening now. I had this original ending for book 2 planned since I started writing book 1, and I wrote it out, and I was like, oh, this is not good. Like, I don't like this. This is not what I thought it would be. And
so you had it,
and
you had it for a long time.
Yeah,
and you were waiting to use it, and then all of a sudden...
I wrote it because it was involving like another character and stuff. And when I wrote it, I was just like, oh, this is falling flat. Like, but I didn't realize that until I wrote it out. And thankfully, though, like, I had other things set up where I could tweak it and make a much stronger and better ending from it. But it was just so funny. I'm like, I've had this ending in my mind for years, and here I write it out, and I'm just like, oh no, like, no,
I don't like it
no,
anymore.
But that's where it's like, to be okay to have the flexibility to embrace changes and, and not beat yourself up when it's like, that's just how it goes sometimes, just in life. Sometimes things don't work out the way you planned, and that's okay.
Right,
yeah.
Well, if folks want to purchase your books, how do they find them?
You can visit my website at www.ammcpherson.com, where I have links for everything, but it is available widely, so it's like on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, all those fun places. Paperback, not bark, it's not a tree. Hardback and ebook.
Very good. And McPherson is spelled McPherson.
Yes.
So A.M. McPherson. So thank you so much for being with us
Thank
here at the
you.
Massillon Public Library. I enjoyed your sharing with us.
Yes, it was so much fun. Thank you so much again for having me.
You're welcome.
Hey everyone, this is Jeff, and I hope you enjoyed listening to the Lore of the Library Lady podcast. Join us for the local author book fair on Saturday, November 11th, 2023, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. This event is open to all and is held twice a year in both March and November. Browse, purchase books, meet, and network with local authors. Visit massillonlibrary.org for more information. Hope to see you there.